for Thursday, September 16th to order. And start, we have a call to order and pledge allegiance to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we get to remarks of the public, there are a couple of things that I'd like that the board that's happened over the last month since our last meeting. And the first thing I'd like to thank the Chamber and Bruce Flax coming up with the Chamber for the change of the Art Festival. That reduced the traffic on Route 1. It produced a lot of better safety issues for that, and they did a wonderful job on that, and hopefully we'll continue that next year in the same manner for the Art Festival. In addition to that, on Labor Day, we had the Miss America Parade. This is the first time that it's been here in Mystic, and there, of course, is anytime you have a new event, there's always some issues and there's some unexpected consequences that occurs. And there was, but what I'd like to say is that it was on the road for 1 hour and 20 minutes. And hopefully that we address some of the issues that we had with the delays and stuff and notifications. We'll take care of that next year. And it'll be better next year. They tell us they're going to be back for us for another 3 years. One other thing I'd like to talk about is we had cars break in over the summer. We did have a car theft that took place on Morse Point. And this is a statewide issue, and there's some indication that the legislature is going to make some changes. I'm not sure if it's going to be in the special legislative session, but the problem that is plaguing all police departments is we have a statewide pursuit policy, and that pursuit policy prohibits any type of chases in these incidents. So even though this is occurring, we're doing the best we can with the tools that they've given us. So that's an issue. The other issue I'd like to recognize the chief. He's going to be at the PD for 38 years now, Chief. And he's going to, starting next week is his anniversary, and he'll be been the chief here for 14 years, which will be the longest serving chief in the history of the Stonington Police Department. So congratulations, Chief. We did have some community outreach at SIF with coffee with the chiefs, which was fairly well attended and gave us a good community outreach, and we'll be continuing that. Correct, Chief?
Yeah.
Great. Those are just some of the things that have occurred over the last month since we met last time, and I'd just like bringing that to everyone's attention. We are moving ahead with some things. Now we're going to open the agenda to remarks of the public. Is there anyone here that would like to make remarks that is not on the agenda? I don't think there's anyone here. So we'll move right into the agenda. The first item on the agenda is the planning zone special use permit application coastal Masonic Temple. Is someone here for that?
Yeah.
Come up, tell us your name for this record.
Just going to set up a plan.
Absolutely, thank you.
Is this the best spot, or is that
That's fine.
That's good, sir. Happy birthday, Mr. Worship.
Oh, happy birthday.
And these are just copies of the proposed building plan. They're a little bit smaller, so I figured just
Appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How you doing, sir?
Good, very good, Chief. Congratulations. It's your anniversary.
For the record, Sergio Terenzia and Associates, office is located at 99 Mechanic Street, Pawcatuck. I'm here on behalf of Coastal Masonic Temple. And the plans before you this evening, the survey plans were prepared by another surveyor engineer, but the engineered site plans, the architectural plans were prepared by Julia Leeming, and Bob Fanner prepared the survey, and I got brought in to bring it through the rest of the permitting process To date, we've applied for wetlands permit and obtained a wetlands permit. We're in the process of filing with Ledgely Health District. Actually, there's a septic system that exists that we just need to make sure that when we put the addition on this, the proposed addition on this building, that the septic is still adequate, which we have no anticipation that it won't be. I'll get into a little bit more details on what the proposal is, and you can see that it should not be an issue there. Just for reference, this property is located at 673 Pequot Trail, and is map 72, block 1, lot 11. I think most of you have traveled Pequot Trail. It's a very distinguishable building with a sign out front for the Coastal Masonic, for the Masons. Has a gravel parking area, which I believe some of the police officers end up sitting there and watching traffic, things of that nature, among other people that sometimes also pull up and use that parking area as almost like a rest stop. But in any event, there's 2 curb cuts existing, both are two-way, subject to two-way traffic, and there's the existing structure on the site, has a gravel road that goes, gravel driveway that runs around the back, so it's a walkout to the rear, and to which where there's a small localized wetland to the rear of the property. As you're looking at it, from the road to the left side, there is this open kind of clearing area that's grass right now. The lot itself is about about 2 acres, and the development that we're proposing will occupy about 1.2 acres of it. So the plans that I've provided to you will correlate with this proposed addition. In addition to some other improvements that we're proposing as part of the requirements for zoning code. The reason that the Coastal Masons are looking for this addition is that the buildings are kind of a little bit older, antiquated. Where they congregate now, they have the upstairs of the existing building is where they have their formal meetings, and then they go downstairs where they have a small kitchen and where they usually have meals and informally congregate. And then they also use this space for other community entities to use. So they want to have an improved space that is this one is not ADA accessible right now to go downstairs. I don't even know if the stairs are the code, to tell you the truth. So with the addition, you can see from the building plans, they'll be able to go back and forth between the space. They'll have the event and congregating space to sit and have meals together with a new kitchen. They're going to abandon downstairs basement space, get rid of the kitchen, and just use it for storage. And then some upgraded bathrooms as well in the proposed addition. That addition will have there's a ramp across the front so that it's ADA compliant, and this will become, kind of it'll be formal but informal entrance. It'll actually look really nice from the side of the building where there will be stairs. But for, most of the members will still come into the front, but will have the ability to go up the ADA and come through. And so it'll preserve the integrity of that existing, very historic looking building, but with this nice addition that comes off of the side, a little bit more modern, but still matching a lot of the same architectural features. It was very important to have this kind of monitor, this arcade in the front, so we put the ADA ramp there, and then the stairs that come in on that side. So if the formal chambers aren't going to be used, people can still come in and use that space. It's important to note that this is under a special use permit with the town of Stonington through the Planning and Zoning Commission. There's really no club or this really use that this really fits into well, so we're permitting this as a community center. And as such, the Masons not only host their own meetings, but they have a litany of other folks that they also host here, as part of being a good member of the community. I can furnish a list, I don't know if I have it with me, but quite a few different organizations also do use this space. And on a periodic basis, they're in, most of these places meet once a month, so it's not a heavy use. And I think it's gonna be the same use as it is today. It's just gonna be an improved space for everyone to use, some more modernized and ADA compliant. The town did, as part of upgrading this, we also increased the amount of parking, because, very once in a while, they may have a large event, that could be as many as 100 people, but on a regular basis, they're probably gonna see, I think the members, usually it's 25 to 30 people once a month, once or twice a month that are using the facility. So, we wanna have enough flexibility with the parking. Most of the formal parking is out front, which will be paved, and then there'll be overflow spaces kind of off in different areas on the side, front, and then this is going to be a gravel, crushed stone parking area, a little bit more formal. So trying to limit the amount of pavement, especially with the wetlands in the rear for the environmental concern. And I'm improving the stormwater management of the site, all approved by the town engineer. We have a few last minute comments that we have to address before the meeting, but nothing insurmountable. No flood considerations here. I think that's about all I have. If you have any questions on I do my best to answer them for you.
The curb cuts have not changed in this, exactly the same as it's been in the past.
Yeah, we're just gonna formalize it with some pavement.
Any of the commissioners have a question? Commissioner Bates?
No, thank you very much for the presentation.
We're also putting in some better traffic control, stop bars and stop signs for going in and out, so.
Commissioner Turner?
Sergio, you don't see any dramatic change as far as usage of that building?
No, generally it's the same membership. They're not anticipating a big increase in membership. That's not the purpose of this. It's for an improved space that's ADA compliant. I mean, you go down in the basement and it's a basement. Yeah, everything will be up on the first floor, better light coming into the space. It'll be much better, and they'll be able to host more people to use the space. And so, as far as the membership goes, there's no anticipation of an increase.
Mr. Elmore?
No, other than I've been driving by that spot for
For a long time.
30 years, and I never knew it got used like that. But no questions.
I just have one quick question, Sergio. Pequot Trail's on the top of that, right?
Top, yep.
Yes.
Okay, so could you just point out, just for my clarification, where the handicap access would be on the addition?
With
On the
Mark?
addition?
Yeah, where the ramp is.
Yeah, so the ADA spaces, you can see, there's two of them up front,
Okay.
and then there'll be a walkway that heads up to an ADA ramp, a handicap ramp, which runs along the front of the building,
Yeah.
goes to the side of the building, and then we'll wrap around, and you can see it on the
It
building
goes,
plan.
okay, so
That's pretty well done.
yeah, okay, okay. Thank you.
I have a motion that we send a letter to the zoning board, say that the board has no problem with safety parking for traffic with this development on Pequot Trail.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
Thank you.
Sergio, you want these back?
No, you can keep them, or do as you will, you can throw them away if you want.
Any Knights Templar memorabilia, anything gonna be there?
Inside, I've got to go through the chambers, there's a lot of stuff on them. It's very interesting.
Alright.
But I think there's a lot of secret stuff, I don't know if I can tell
we
you.
don't want to
Have to kill us?
No, we don't know about that. The next item on the agenda is zoning use permit for Mark J. Densmore. Is anyone here to talk about that? This has come to us once before.
It has.
And we've looked at this before, but I understand that at that time before, they were gonna merge the properties, and now they're not gonna merge the properties.
That's correct.
And we went
So it's gonna be on one piece of the property.
It is.
Okay, great, we're happy to hear from you.
Yeah.
And then-
before we had a larger structure, and now we're going down to a building, that's 30 by 44 and a half. We have commercial business office on the first floor, one residential apartment upstairs. Before I had 2 upstairs. We have reduced the parking to 9 parking spaces. I think we had 15 or 16 before. No parking on the street as one would expect down there. It's a little more than a 10,000 square foot lot. It's where the Poly Tree building is now. And other than that, we just made the project, the footprint smaller. And we're not doing anything on the adjoining property. The only thing we have over there is part of the driveway goes onto that property, and we provided an easement to go along with that. So both properties can use the driveway. No parking on the road.
Commissioners have any questions? Commissioner
I'm
Bates?
sorry, your name, sir?
Art Hebert?
Commissioner Bates?
No questions, thank you.
Turner?
None.
Elmer?
No, sir.
Nope.
Yeah.
Chief, you would like to make some comments here, I believe?
Memory serves me right in observing it. Many of the dog watch management, et cetera, that's their parking lot. What are they gonna do? Because what we have usually is, and it's been in the past, a dump onto public road that before wasn't there, and now our 8, 10, 12 cars that normally were their cooks and management, et cetera, now back into our wheelhouse.
Well, I can't really commit to what they're going to do. Mark Densmore allows them to park there now. What we definitely have to do on this site is identify 2 parking spaces for the residential. And the other spaces would be typically not used because it's a business. It's going to be the offices. So after hours, one would expect 2 out of the 9 to be for people upstairs, and the other, Mark, I don't know whether Mark will allow them to keep parking there or not. He hasn't told me.
I'm guessing you're gonna have some issues with those residential parking spaces.
Well, they're going to be signed now.
I'm guessing
I mean,
you're gonna have
people
some
sign,
issues with those residential parking
we
spaces.
have no parking signs, and still the police write tickets, so people don't follow orders.
That's my point.
Yeah, but, you know, what can you do? You have to, Mr. Downsmore has a right to have his property, use his property, and he has to do the best he can in terms of being a good neighbor, and he's a very reasonable man in my dealings with it.
Thank you.
Again, can I reiterate
Yes.
something that I think I told to the people either at Sailor Ed's or
Yeah.
the other place? It behooves you guys, and when I say you guys, Densmore, Mr. Eck, the carpet place, and Sailor Ed's, to solve your parking problems down there and work with each other. You do not want us to solve the parking problem.
No.
So, I mean, I can see it already. My crystal ball worked for a second here. The new building goes in, those parking spaces go away. We now have 15 cars that we didn't have to deal with on that street that is already at times to the max. And that means we're being called unless something else is worked out. And I don't know what that other thing is that's gonna be worked out, but I think it probably is in everybody's best interest to have the 4 horsemen there together and have a discussion on what they're gonna do, so we don't have to.
I'll pass that along, Chief.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. We have a motion to forward on to the zoning board that the commission sees no problem with parking, traffic, safety in this development.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Discussion.
Aye.
Discussion. Any discussion?
Well, I see a problem
we,
with parking.
well, we listened to you just a minute ago.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
I thought we had that discussion, we can have it again if you'd like.
Okay, you can make your motion, but I think there's gonna be
Oh, an issue
a
with
problem,
parking, yeah.
issue with
All right.
problem with parking here, that maybe not his issue, but it's gonna be an issue
You're right.
that we're gonna deal with.
All right, so.
Well, I
Unless
think-
they decide.
I think in that motion, we need to stress to the zoning board that as a result of this, there may be future parking issues on, almost, all Stonington Road in the future, we may have to address that when you send that in, Chief.
And, Chair, if we may, I think what we've also asked is that there could be a conversation, between the folks on that road before we get to a problem. And I think
Yeah.
what I heard you say, sir, is that you're happy to go back and ask that Densmore and Eck and everyone perhaps have a conversation. So that seems like a good thing to also note,
Absolutely.
that you're happy to convey that message.
Well, I'm happy to, tell Mr. Densmore of your concerns. Actually, he was well aware of those long before I ever showed up. But I feel compelled to point out that the issues on that street are not my client's property. It is the dog watch, and it's going to be the Sailorettes. They're the high-intensity generators, and they're going to be, and they're gonna continue to be. And it's pretty difficult for a small operation like this on a 10,000 square foot lot to do much in terms of solving. He could certainly enter into a continuing agreement to allow some of their staff to park there while, on off hours, for the businesses, but that's up to him. But
That goes to the chief's point about all of you collaborating.
I get it.
Because I believe Mr. Eck parks in his parking lot right now.
Does he?
Right, so I usually see his Mini Cooper in there in the morning. So he's firing off the wood fire stuff for the barbecue early, like before 7 in the morning. So I see him parked in there all the time, and then I see a lot of their staff.
Understand.
So I think if that goes away, then it changes our look at times of what goes on that street.
I
Because we do get complaints about parking, it's not because of Densmore Oil.
No.
It's them, but
It's still there.
it's Domino's.
We're gonna try. We'll do what we can
Yeah,
on that.
yeah. We appreciate that, yeah, that's all we
Thank you.
can ask, yeah.
Well, we just said that, comments on to the zoning board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now traffic, and, we've got, this is a Ragnar relay in Stonington, and to be perfectly honest, Chief, I've read all this stuff, and, I'm confused of what this actually is.
One on night.
You know the phone is capped here?
Excuse me, Chair, did we vote on that last
I
motion?
don't think we did.
We didn't vote on that last motion.
We had a motion and a second.
You looking to call for an adjustment?
I'm sorry?
Don't we have
The
the,
adjustment,
yeah, it's either in here or in Rogers. Just back up. We have a
yeah,
motion.
we'll just back it up and.
Yeah, so we'll make the motion to, add the comments that were.
Made by the chief and by the rest of the committee.
Right, right.
Just all in favor?
Aye.
Bear with us for a second, Amber wants to get in on the call.
I'm sorry, who?
Amber Sadler,
Ah.
the senior race director, the Ragnar relay.
Or she did it.
This is
She's in Utah right
Utah,
now,
she's,
Well, that's right.
and she's changing the route as we speak.
Oh,
She was not aware of the degree of elevation of what is known as Quagatock Hill.
oh, jeez.
So I
Yeah,
explained to
that's
her
amazing.
that you're gonna have people run up Quagatock Hill.
I don't like driving up it.
Right.
yeah.
And as we found out this week, tractor trailer trucks don't enjoy coming down it either.
It's true.
You can get a little runaway there.
No kidding. That's your race.
Yeah, imagine sending those runners up that hill.
No. Separate the men from the boys.
Hey, girl. Yeah, that's a long one.
So I don't know if you saw a bunch of my comments back to her about a variety of different issues, and she brought up coning and it's a good sign. It is. Keeps booting up the computer. Mr. Chair, if you wanted to take care of a few of those other ones down.
All right, we'll pass this right now. The next thing is, under traffic is North Stonington Road parking. As the commission knows, this has been an ongoing issue well before I became on the commission, and I think, Mr. Tabor, when your first assignments, when you got on the commission 5 years ago, was to go out and look at this issue.
That's correct.
We've met with them a number of times, both here and on the site. And this last week, most of the commissioners have been out there and taken a look at what's going on. In addition, the captain and I were out there this week and took a look at the area, see what areas we could go ahead and.
Hello, this is Amber.
Hi Amber, this is Chief Stewart from the Police Department of Stonington. How are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Good, you're on speakerphone and you're with the Board of
Okay.
Police Commissioners. So, yep. So you're on.
All right. I'm not sure how much you guys know as far as the information sent over to the chief, but I'm here for any questions that you have. If you want me to just give you a rundown first, I'm happy to do that.
I think you need us to start us from square one.
Okay, I can do that. What we are proposing is a 200-mile running relay starting in Groton and ending in Quincy, Massachusetts. Super big echo here, so I apologize if I end up repeating myself. But the portion of the relay in Stonington would be coming through Friday morning, October 22nd, between about 7 a.m. and 3 p.m. Now, how it works is it is a 12-man running relay. Right now, I have 175 teams looking at it, and so that means 175 vehicles through those hours of 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. So they're very scattered. We don't request any road closures or anything like that, and they just leapfrog from the start line in Groton to just about to Boston. So we don't have any road closures. We just have them on what would look like everyday pedestrian traffic. I try to keep them on roads that can accommodate the runners, and then the added vehicles that, again, is about 175 over about 8 hours.
So Amber, did the vehicles sort of shadow the runners, or what do they do?
So the vehicles follow them from stop to stop. We have a stop at Groton New London Church just before the Stonington town line, and then we're proposing one at the Little Lake Field. The vehicles are not to follow up with their runner. They're given a guide. We have a runner packet that I send them. They're not allowed to shadow. They have to obey all laws. So they aren't allowed to just pull over halfway out of the road. I have staff on course, just kind of floating, making sure that they obey all the laws and rules. If there is a safe place for them to pull over and offer water to their runner, then we do encourage that they do that, but it does have to be legal.
Just for my clarification, so it sounds as though there's like a support vehicle for each runner, is that what you're suggesting? Or a group of
Yes,
runners?
yes, so each team, the support vehicle is made up of the team members. So one person from the vehicle is actively running at all times, and the rest of the team is just cheering them on and then helping them when needed as far as support. Now, I do have certain lakes that if there's a concern for speed or road shoulders or anything like that, then we do designate them no support lakes. So vehicles are not allowed to pull over on a portion or the entirety of that lake. So if that's something that's a concern, we can definitely designate that portion as non-support, which means the vehicles go straight to the exchange, and I would put a water stop for the runners.
They switch off, people that are in the vehicle switch off at the runners, and how long a length? They change runners?
I'm sorry, I did not understand what you just asked.
I said, they switch off runners, people that are in the vehicle switch off at the runners, the runner runs for a certain length of time, then somebody else takes his place?
Yes, but they're only allowed to exchange at those exchange points. So in this case, it would be at the Little League field upon approval of use of that property. So they aren't allowed to just pull over wherever and jump out and change people, because then we have road crossings, which tend to sometimes be unsafe.
So could you tell me what the route is exactly through Stonington?
So I actually spoke with Chief Stewart earlier, and what I had been proposing was to put them on Sequence Trail. And the reason for that was to avoid a crossing in Mystic. I've been to the area, I was there last week, and it does have a tendency to get congested, which is understandable, it's a great area. But he had recommended jumping them up to Highway 184, the New London Turnpike, because there's a wider road shoulder. So I've just sent that over to my safety director to look at, and I would prefer routing them that way. So they're, as far as Stonington, they'll leave the Groton New London Church, which is on Highway 234, and they would be heading south, and they would take an immediate left onto 184, pick that all the way, it's like several miles, all the way to Anguilla Road, and then jump south to the Little League field there, exchange, pick up the incoming runner, drop off the outgoing runner, and then I would probably just send them south. This would be up to the chief's recommendation for the route as far as safety, but I probably would just send them south on Anguilla Road and over on Highway 234. If that is, for that short section, if that's not recommended, then we'll get them right back up to the New London Turnpike and down on Highway 2, which is what he and I had talked about. I wanted to go over what that might look like, having runners going both ways on that Anguilla Road. So the route currently I have on the court, but that's definitely up for discussion with the police and what they feel would be the safest route.
I think that, without a definite plan, it's very difficult for the commission to approve something that's not written in concrete. It sounds to me that you're not sure where this route's going to be. And do you have permission to use the Little League field?
I do not, actually, and your concern is super valid. So the reason I don't have permission is I actually thought it went with the town permit. So when I was sending that into the town, I just did find out that it's actually Adam who is the president of the Little League Field. So I reached out to him to see about permission. And the reason for the uncertainty of the route is simply because I had spoken to the chief earlier and we're looking at a safety issue. I'm happy to go ahead and submit the application on Highway 234. I've gone out and driven that. I know there's that gnarly hill, but I'm not super concerned about the traffic out there, and I'm just absolutely willing to adjust it according to what you guys recommend for your community and for what you think is a safety issue.
Well, any other commissioners have some questions?
Yeah, hi Amber, this is Commissioner Bates. What is the Ragnar Relay? What is the point? Is this a charity run or is it a club, or could you just explain some of the background?
Yeah, for sure, that's a great question. So it's just a team building race that we've been fortunate enough to be able to benefit different charities along the route. We are a for-profit company, so we don't claim to be a nonprofit. We have been supporting local charities the entire way. It's a 200-mile course. And so we're able to find charities at those 35 exchange points along the way to offer a monetary donation. Sometimes I'll be able to make a donation to a church or a school. We also have fundraising groups. The charity impact for the Cape Cod course in 2018 was just over $300,000. So we offer a charity platform for them to fundraise, and that can benefit many different organizations. I know Smile Math, I don't know if you're familiar with them, they've been able to get chairs for kids in wheelchairs and just all different organizations, a lot of schools and scout groups. So we are for profit. It's really just a team building experience, but we are able to benefit charities along the way.
Thank you.
And I got a question for the chief and the captain. I understand there's 175 runners, right? Sounds like thereabouts. But I kind of see somewhat of a safety issue having those folks running on Anguilla, whether it's north or south Anguilla. I mean, it's curvy, there's not a lot of room on the side, it's level. So chances are, at least I envision them, or I see them, I could be wrong, that a lot of the runners are gonna then be obliged to run on the pavement, which gets them out into the road more. I just wonder what your thoughts are relative to, 175 people seems like a lot to be putting out on the roads, even if there's large intervals between the runners. Just your thoughts.
Well, having lived along that road, people used to run it all the time. I mean, you still do it, you have bikes, you have people running on that road, so it's not a question whether people use it and do that, they do. It's whether you're having 175. My biggest concern is whatever these following vehicles are gonna do, because you don't need 175 cars where everybody's cheering everybody along on this route. You're gonna need Roto-Rooter to unplug that clogged road, because it's gonna be a mess all along there. The other thing is, there's no easy route to run this if they're gonna come through town. It's easier if you're on a bicycle, but Route 234 going up Quagatock Hill and those curvy roads may be even worse to run. I don't see too many people running that stretch of Route 234 between Deans Mill Road and Quagatock Hill. 184 is a straight shot, a little bit wider, so you're able to run down there, and that's a bunch of straightaways to get you to North Anguilla Road.
Right.
And North Anguilla Road, you just make mosey on down to the Little League field. Then from the Little League field, then you're jumping out on 234 during a pretty busy section there from basically High Ridge to the top of the hill there, what is it up there, one of the roads, Fernando Drive, up in that area, and then you're coming down the hill and into Westerly, Rhode Island. So there's some challenges, but it looks like the challenge is the whole route. 200 miles are going through different communities and towns. This isn't the 200 miles on a track. You're out and seeing different sites and doing it. I guess the saving grace, like some of the bike relays we've had that just jump off and go, that it's not a grouping of people and to go from there. I don't have enough information about this group, and we have no past history of knowing whether this is a debacle or a great thing to really offer any insight as to the pros and cons of this deal.
Amber, this is the captain. What other towns have you received approval from at this point?
So I'm working with Captain Jenkins in Groton. I actually drove the route in Westerly with, I'm trying to think of his name, Cinderella. He's Westerly, and then there's another Cinderella in Charlestown who we're working with. I've gotten approval in Quincy. I have a town meeting for North Provincetown. I mean, there's so many towns that we run through that they just kind of come in intermittently. And currently, the month of September, end of August, beginning of October is when all those town meetings really, such as this, really come together, and that's when we get those final approvals.
Okay, thank you.
So Amber, this is Commissioner Bates again. I'm just curious, so this is in October. There's probably a good explanation, but why is this only being, why are you only seeking approvals now? And also, it sounds like you already have people signed up for the race, even in advance of getting approval. So I'm just curious about those pieces of the process.
Yep, that's totally another valid question. So permitting is much later this year. Typically the event is in May. Historically it has started at Nantucket Beach and ended in Provincetown. And we just kind of work with communities along the way. We start with a bare bones idea of the course. Once that first year is over, it makes it a lot easier. But we had originally looked at having it in May of 2020 and then postponed due to COVID. So I had worked with a few, we want to get those major exchange points first, where both vehicles are. That is not Stonington, but that would be Groton, Westerly, the finish line. So we get those together, and then we get everything else together. We do open registration before then, because if the race doesn't come together, teams are able to disperse to a different race. We have one in New Hampshire and all those places. But the reason it's so late this year is because we weren't sure if we were going to have to cancel the event. So we do have protocols in place where teams can either defer or change to a different race if it isn't able to go through. But historically, it's been pretty easy to work with the local communities to find something that's safe and that's accepted both within the community from a safety standpoint, and then whatever they need from me as a director, whether that's changing the route so that the community is more comfortable, whatever it is that you need from me. And so, again, it is later this year, but generally we have that good working relationship where we can figure out a safe and comfortable route, and very rarely have to change, cancel, or move the route.
Amber, this is Commissioner Elmer. In theory, it's nice to have designated areas where you can pull over and areas where you can't. Murphy's Law says that someone's going to cramp up or fall, and what kind of experiences have you had with that, and what kind of issues does that present besides the obvious?
I'm so sorry, there's such an echo. Are you asking about areas that are not designated?
Well, you were talking about designated areas to pull over, and I'm just thinking, if something goes wrong, someone cramps up or falls or hurts himself or whatever, that may not conveniently happen in a designated area where people are going to be able to pull over.
Right. Yep. I have staff on course, so I have several members. I actually go through during the gnarly, like the busiest time when you might see people who are trying to run more than one abreast, things like that in those areas. So I have staff. We will pull over. If anyone pulls over, we issue them a violation, and they get that through a text system. So we have contact numbers of all of the vehicles. So if it's not a designated area, then we as staff will find a place to pull over. We'll call that team, pick up their runner for them, and take them to the designated area. So we have medics at the major exchange points, which are in Groton and Westerly. So people are directed to just go ahead with those medics. But if it's a place where teams can't pull over, then there are 2 or 3 of us out along that section at any given point. We can stop. And we have the amber flashing lights on the vehicle. And again, if we find someone pulling over, we issue them a violation. They don't want that, because then they get kicked off the course.
Thank you.
Yeah, why not? They're already on Route 234. They have to get a highway use permit
From the state.
from the state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Certainly, it's better to stay on 184 than it would be to come down there.
We've directed some of the bicycle stuff up to 184, keep it off and out of the downtown and clogging that stuff up, because what you end up with in downtown Mystic, if they run along Route 1, they actually come through the Groton down 215 and then down River Road. So if they didn't get down River Road and decide to go over the drawbridge, you could have groups backing up at the drawbridge, it all of a sudden opens up and a yacht goes through, and then we have them clumped up in downtown Mystic, and that's what we're trying to avoid. So they're well aware that you go up on 184, it's 45, 50 miles an hour, traffic up there too. It's not a, slow-moving area.
Yeah, and I had mentioned to the chief about would coning be a good idea, and we decided that would be more of a distraction than a help to put coning up on there. But with that wider shoulder, the runners, they want to keep themselves safe. And so they are told they have to obey all laws, run on the opposite side of the road as traffic, and, toward inclined traffic. And, we just have to trust them that they're going to use common sense, which isn't always common, but then also with staff nudging them and sending them text messages when we see a behavior that may not be completely what we would expect of our runners. They typically stay in line.
Question?
I had a question, I didn't know if the chief or the captain had the opportunity to talk to other departments that have worked with this group in the past.
I think it's the first time they've come to this area.
But she had mentioned doing it over the Cape and so on, and I didn't know if you had an opportunity.
Wasn't aware of it.
Okay.
My concern is that we really don't know where this race is going to go to. We don't know where, we don't have permission at the Little League field.
Right.
So I have some concerns about that. I know what the other commissioners feel.
Mr. Chairman, I just feel that, there's a lot of unknowns here. And I don't know what the timetable of the event, if we have another meeting where we could table it for the next meeting for a vote. I know it's getting closer to the event, but I think that we'll have more information about the event and the route to be able to solidly say we support and vote. I don't know if at this point I feel comfortable voting for something. I don't know a lot of the specifics.
I concur with that.
Mr. Turner, I agree with you. I think, Amber, you're going to need to get some more details on this and exactly where things are going to go. It'll give you time to get your waypoints agreed upon. So the commissioner feels that we should table this until next month. I hate to do that to you, but the majority of the commissioners here don't feel comfortable approving this at this meeting.
Okay, so when would that next meeting be? Because I actually will be in town. If I could attend an in-person meeting, that might be easier. If not, I'm happy to jump on a call.
My advice to you is to get everything settled out well before the meeting and send it to the chief so we can get it to the commissioners. The date of the next meeting is October 14th.
Okay. Yep, I can get all of that together and get it over along with a possible reroute just in case this is not approved.
And one other thing, if I may, just what's the process that she needs to deal with relative to getting permission from the state if they do decide to do 184? Is she familiar with what that entails?
Amber, it's the chief. Did you get hold of the state DOT about, it's called a highway use permit?
They have a highway access permit, and I'm just gonna have to go ahead and submit that as tentative without the approval of the board, and let them know that it is pending approval.
Okay.
That's fine.
Yep.
So,
And Mr. Chair, just Amber, the other last thing, it's probably clear to you, but it'll be really important before our next meeting that you have had the conversation with the chief and that he is comfortable with the route before we have this meeting. It would be hard for the commission to endorse if the chief is not comfortable and doesn't feel like he fully understands the route that you're asking for.
Right, absolutely, yep. I will work with him to see if there's a need for police detail or to make sure that he's clear on what we're looking at and what this might look like for this weekend.
Okay, that's good, because we can't do it the day of the meeting either. So it has to be,
beforehand.
you gotta do a couple days or a week or two at a time if possible.
And last thought I have, Amber, and this is Bob Tabor, Commissioner speaking. It might be preferable to have those chase vehicles, for lack of a better term, go from the rest area points and just congregate there, as opposed to, I just have visions, maybe wrongly, but folks following along, shadowing some of the runners you know, cheering for them to, run along, and I could have this mental image wrong in my head, but I could see that being problematic. So I think it'd be best to keep the cars distanced from the runners. I think that would be safer. That's just my observation.
And those are the recommendations that are super valuable to me. You guys are aware of your community and what traffic looks like. I was there last week, but I was on 234. So I will be out again in about a week and a half and really check that out. And I get out and run a person, and that'll help me work with the police.
Great, thank you very much.
Chief, what is the turnaround on a special use permit? Turnaround time?
I'm sorry.
I was asking the chief what the turnaround time was for a highway special use permit.
It could be as 1 day to 2 weeks. It depends if everybody's in the office. If everybody's in the office and you catch them, then they're good. And if they know about it, I'd encourage you, Amber, to be talking with the state pretty quickly here if you haven't already, so that when if you get the green light, then you're not delayed too much on that.
Right, thank you. I appreciate that.
All right, so we're gonna table this until the next meeting.
Yes.
Thank you, Amber.
Okay, well, thank you so much for your time, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you, good luck.
Have a good night.
Stable. We'll go back to North Stonington Road parking. As I was saying, to the rest of the commission, I don't see anybody here from Clyde's to talk about that. But the captain and I were out there the other day, and we took a look at parking along the road, and we found that there are some areas that definitely have to be, where the no parking has to be expanded due to safety and traffic. But there are a number of areas that we can leave for on-road parking there. So, as the commissioners, you've all received a copy of a GPS map that the captain did that shows the area where we're going to recommend that we expand the no parking areas. If you've been up to the mill, you see that they do have permission now to use the school property for parking. They did put a sign out there that said that this was available for overflow parking. I'm not sure the sign was encouraging people, because it said prepare for a long hike, I believe, what it said. Actually, I have a copy of that. It said, Clyde's overflow parking, if you don't mind the height, park here. So that's really not encouraging, so, for people, and I haven't heard anything about a shuttle, but the last time we talked to them, they were exploring that. So, are there any comments from any of the commissioners about the information you received on the GPS maps? Okay. We need a motion to, Mr. Taylor, do you have a motion?
I do, I can make a motion. What's that?
Discussion comes after.
Yeah, I have
Yes.
a motion.
Yep. I make a motion to approve the no parking areas on North Stonington Road in the proximity of site of Clyde Cider Mill, as prescribed in the attached schematic and recommended by the Stonington Police Department. This expansion of the no parking zone is being done to ensure pedestrian and vehicular safety in the area while still allowing for some parking on the road.
Do I have any comments on the motion?
Who's gonna give a second?
Second.
I'm sorry, second. All right, comments on the, Mr. Turner?
No, I just probably will echo what you were just saying, Bob, about the use of the school. And I think that the use of the school is a very good opportunity to start people using that to help alleviate the road parking. But I think that they need to encourage people to use that lot. Certainly the signage and the verbiage and the signage is something small, but I was thinking, since we were just coming out of the gate with the usage of the school, that maybe we would have an employee from Clyde's, maybe during the peak, couple few hours, especially up there, that someone would be up there with a flagger or finding ways to get people to use that lot. It was a little disconcerting for me to go by there several times during peak hours and see the school lot empty. and people still love the roadway. So I think we have a way to go, I think we'll get there, but I think that we have to find ways to encourage people to use that lot.
I agree. In addition, I was up there every weekend, looking at this, and I think Commissioner Tabor was up there also. And some of the issues that I saw there was that people would drive up, wouldn't even get to where the driveway is to go into Clyde's, and would pull off on the side of the road. They wouldn't even go up that far. A few times, you had to go out into well, you live up there, you have to pull out into the other passage. I believe that we received a number of complaints, Chief.
Five in, I think it was, 4 days.
Yeah. So we are receiving complaints from up there. Hopefully this will address the issue, and if it doesn't, we may have to come back and look at it again, but hopefully this will give them the opportunity to, we're trying to not affect their business as much as possible. It's been a great asset to the community, and we want to keep them in business. We don't want to drive them out of business, but we do want to address the safety issue. Hopefully by coming to this agreement, that's doing just a small portion of it for a while, see how that goes. Like I said, we may have to come back and readdress this in the future if it doesn't work. So we have a motion, it's been seconded. Any other discussions? I have a motion on the field. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. On to the next thing is, we've received a letter on the light at Coogan's Boulevard from Mr. Ralph Wheeler. I don't see Mr. Wheeler here before, but he lives in Masonic Care, and in his letter, he wanted us to have going west to Clare Drive to make a left-hand turn arrow into the Clare Drive while heading west there. He also feels that there should be a regular stoplight at Jerry Brown and Coogan Boulevard. I've been up there 3 times looking at the traffic, and it really doesn't seem to be a problem as far as I can see. As far as the left-hand turn on the traffic, you just have to wait your turn, and it should be okay. And as far as he mentioned that there've been a number of accidents at Jerry Brown Road and Coogan Boulevard. We have not had any accidents at Jerry Brown Road and Coogan's Boulevard.
Yeah.
We've had one accident on Coogan Boulevard that had nothing to do with the intersection, and that was the fatal accident that took place because somebody was inattentive and went across the center line and struck the person head on. Do you have any comments from the commissioner? My recommendation is that we don't take any action on this request. Any comments from the commissioners? No.
The only thing I'd say about this was, this is the only town-owned traffic light. So every other traffic light in the town of Stonington is owned by the state DOT. So we maintain this and we service it on occasion, etc.
Coogan and Clara you're talking about?
Coogan and Clara, correct. So to do any improvement to that would be to say the least, a major, when I say major capital improvement that maybe the ARPA funds wouldn't cover, but who knows?
Your ARPA funds would cover.
Right. So it,
And Chief, when you say major, what does that mean?
probably 300 to 500,000.
Right, so that's important information.
Any of those traffic lights right now are just completely big money, because you hear about that at Mason's Island Road and Route 1 on occasion to change something there, and you're talking that amount of money. Or on occasion, you see the roundabout on further at Route 1 and Route 2. That I would probably estimate in the neighborhood of $2 to $3 million. Look at the traffic lights at a place like that. Just the engineering and the state DOT isn't overly enthusiastic about those type of projects unless they have to. They're enthusiastic to have other people pay for them, like a municipality or a developer, but not themselves to do anything along that line. So I don't think we're going to be touching Clara Drive without that. Would have to have a major engineering study, and then the cost to do that would be knee buckling, I think, when it comes to that.
So Chief, when you said Mr. Wheeler a letter to the commissioners,
Absolutely.
Thank you. We have a letter, email, regarding, speeding on Lanton Hill Road. And we've talked to her a number of times, and she was just, at coffee with the chiefs, both the chief and I had an opportunity to talk to her about this issue. And, I believe the, traffic, sign, do we have the data from the signs, Captain?
Yeah, I mean, there are some speeding vehicles, but the average speed isn't too much higher than, a couple miles higher than the posted speed limit. But there is the occasional, rocket ship going by, as it is a main throughway up towards the casino, for traffic from our hotels and tourists. But we have been, the important thing with the sign is that we can identify times of days and what specific days the majority of the speeding is occurring. So identifying that, we can be more effective and efficient in assigning directed speed patrol up there. So we have, I've assigned officers several times to be right in the area of the person that is concerned about the speeding, because it is a straightaway there. So she has come out and thanked the officer. She's appreciative of us being up there, but just our presence alone slows people down and realizes we're watching it. So that's pretty much what we've been doing so far.
So I've spoken with her. I did relay my her dripping with honey email, and I don't think that we'll be getting those anymore. But I explained to her I think the land speed record I had on 180 on that area right there when I was on patrol was 93 on the straightaway right there. It's on straightaway. To sort of keep it in perspective, and the land speed record was set, I think it was about a year and a half ago, up and around the corner on 184, 125. So 125 miles an hour. You're in the flats down there. They go.
But I think, Chief and Captain, thank you. I think what you're saying, though, is that we are doing everything that is reasonable to try and address that. There are people who, that's crazy, but if one person is going to drive 125 miles an hour in the middle of the night, I don't think we can expect you to have an officer stationed there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And what you're saying is that you're monitoring it and you're doing what you can at the hours where you have seen that it's an issue. And so thank you for that. So what else is it reasonable to suggest can be done?
Well, you see, like right here, I think there's a number of speeding issues around town. What you see, you travel the highway to Rocky Hill, do 65 miles an hour and see what happens to you. You're in trouble, and everybody is in a hurry, and we're seeing that, and that's translating into some of these cut-through roads, Asher Avenue, Lantern Hill Road, and other ones that people are just in a hurry and they're going to go, and they expect the police to curb that immediately. Montauk Avenue, remove this, do that, I demand this, blah, 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 on and on. But the data is there to support that all well and good. If we can say that, we're having a long-term issue on a particular road, you wave the flag, show the cruiser, stop some cars, etc. That will do it from a temporary point of view. The only thing I think the studies have shown that really slows people down are the concern that they have or the actual giving of tickets. Giving of tickets may not be all that popular in today's day and age, but showing the police cruiser is not bad, and that's a temporary fix, and then people's actions start in again. I mean, if you're on 95 and you come up on the bridge, you're slowing down because you've seen state cruisers there in the past. You go by that intersection for 2 weeks and don't see a cruiser, you're not going to slow down. You're just going to keep going. That's human nature, and that you're dealing with that. We also have a very difficult time on free roads, free passage, free everything in the United States of America to determine when somebody is actually going to be speeding on some of these side roads. I mean, you have problems on highways and other stuff with, people going, but some of these side roads that may have very limited traffic. You go on one in particular, Montauk Avenue, you send a police officer up there right now, in an hour's time, if they don't get a call in that hour's time, which could be more than likely they will, they sat up there for an hour, you may have 10 cars go by you during that hour, unless it's during school drop-off pickup time. You may have 10, and every single one of them is around the speed limit, and the officer goes, what am I doing here? I'm moving on to something in their mind that's gonna be more important at that time. Not that it's not important for the citizen, because they're seeing things. We also have seen there's some optical illusions with speed that, if you're near a curve in any way, and I don't know I know where she's at, she's on a straightaway, but a lot of people they think that the cars are going a lot faster than they are, and that's where that data comes in that says, no, we're in the ballpark as far as things go. And any of these roads, if we looked at them and said, okay, everybody's at, 10, 15 miles an hour over the speed limit, yeah, then we know we have a speeding issue and we've got to be concerned on that road. But if you're seeing it pretty close to that, the data is supportive of most people, probably 85% of the people, if not more, are doing it.
I think we saw that on Montauk Avenue, which I think is on the agenda here, correct, Captain, can you?
Well, so to the chief's point, a lot of times people, due to noise, road noise, things like that, they perceive that they have a speeding problem. And what we've done, and thanks to the chair, he gave me information, and we were able to get 2 brand new speed signs. The nicest ones we have, they're like $5,000 a piece, from Yukon, and we put one on Montauk and one on Jeremy Hill. In both roads, there was a very concerned citizen that was very vocal and appreciated them providing the information that there was, they felt there was a speeding problem. So what I have done is I've downloaded more than twice the data, and I've gone up there, wrote a nice little note on the back of the data, and dropped it off in their mailbox. And so far, I said, please call me if you need this explained, and I haven't received a phone call. So maybe looking at the data, they realize it's not as bad as I thought it was. So that's another thing we do with the speed signs. So thank you for the information. We got $10,000 worth of signs for free, and they've been very effective. And it really shows the resident that's concerned that it may not be as bad, but it makes them feel better that we can pinpoint the troubled times, days, and deal with it more effectively.
Great, thank you.
And Chair, I'd like to thank the captain for going that extra mile and dropping those off with citizens. That's certainly above and beyond what is flatly required. So thank you for doing that.
We have on the next item, we already talked about the speed sign data on Montauk. On Concho Street parking, the crop saloon, we're gonna put that on next month because we just got the information today, right? So that'll go to next month's agenda. Do any of the commissioners have any comments about traffic at all that you'd like to make since we're in that area? Okay, thank you. Next thing is the need approval of the minutes from the Thursday, August 12th regular meeting. Accept the minutes.
I'll make a motion, we accept the minutes from the Thursday, August 12th meeting of the regular meeting of the Stonington Police Commission.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Next, report of the chief, it's all yours. Trying to keep the joke stuff from you. I think you used them all up last night.
I could keep going, but I probably, there was one other piece of,
What do we got there?
information that was in your packet that didn't make it to the agenda for some reason. But it's, the traffic backup on Route 27 regarding
Yeah, let me comment about
the
that.
traffic lights and.
Yeah, yeah, it was on the other agenda, it's not on that agenda. I've got a couple of calls myself on this, especially about the north parking lot at the Seaport. It seems like the traffic has been backing up going north there. And so I went up there and looked at that myself a couple of times. And it seems that the coming south, there's a left-hand turn arrow into that parking lot. And what happens is people come down, they go into the lot, they don't stop and the light changes, and then the people going north don't have an opportunity to move up and clear the northbound traffic. So I'm thinking that, we should ask the state to take a look at those signs. Captain, you and I just talked about this already. Can we do that?
We can ask, they have a signs and signals, guy who lives in the area actually, and they do the timing of these. And sometimes a tweak one way or the other has made made the day or ruined the day. So it seems like they did a tweak somewhere in the last maybe year, the light cycle, and sometimes it's just a second or two, and that little tweak causes a little bit of havoc and backup. The other thing that we're not taking into account is the increase in traffic in Mystic, aka the New Hamptons, for this past summer, because the amount of people that were down there, the amount of traffic that was around. Don't forget, these are old cow and horse paths that they put asphalt on in the 1920s. They were not meant to support a modern transportation system, and yet they are to this day. So at some point in time, we may be dealing with stuff like this, with the backups and the traffic, and it comes with living in Mystic and visiting.
Commissioner Tabor just pointed out that there's something missing from the new agenda also that was on the old agenda, and that's the hazard at the intersection of Morse and Field Street. We got a citizen that got involved in an accident at Morse and Field Street in Pawcatuck, and he was concerned that there was not a good field of vision if you came going east on Field Street, intersecting with Morse Street, and looking to the left. There wasn't a good field of vision, and he was asking us to have the neighbors cut down some trees there. Both the captain and I went out there at different times and looked at it, and I think Commissioner Tabor, you went out there also, correct? And we did not see that there was any type of hazard as far as field of vision. He also wanted us to paint the sidewalk, the curbing 100 feet. The requirement for intersections of stop signs for yellow paint is 25 feet. So I'm not even sure that we really need that. There's a good field of vision there for traffic, and he was involved in a.
I don't think he was involved in an accident. I think he was just saying that he was concerned about an accident being there. And I haven't seen anything at that particular location.
Well,
What he says that you can't put no field of vision to the left. It's pretty much worse, yeah.
Yeah,
So the trees, I believe, are town-owned trees that.
but they're high up and
They don't like to cut trees in town. So we'll, I don't mind, I have a chainsaw. Fine, but I won't go down on Moss Street and do that, but we can have a yellow line painted 25 feet.
Yeah, we'll do that. So
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll take care of that.
All right.
And then continuing along, I just wanted to mention, and thank Diana for saving the day. Natalie was out for a little bit and she had to jump right in to do the packets, do everything, get it all together, and she didn't skip a beat, so thank you. You jumped right in, and good team player.
Okay.
So jumped right in with that. In your packets, you have the budget report. The only thing that I'm gonna say is that I'm getting a little concerned about the amount of overtime that we're paying because of the recruits at the academy, and COVID. Yeah, we've had a few issues along that line, but we're sometimes paying 20 hours a pay period for each officer, 60 hours to attend of overtime to attend the academy. That's about $3,000 a week to do that. So at some point in time, that training budget is going to be beaten down, and
Stephen, why the overtime for training? Can you explain?
because they are not allowing the recruits to stay at the academy, so they have to travel back and forth home. So we have to.
I thought you had a creative possible fix to that.
Did not work. And then it was going to cost almost as much to do so, and then some family issues with them, etc. And here we are. So it's a burden of all the towns that are not within short distance of the academy. It's the new wave, I guess, And I would predict in 10 years, you would not see a police academy in Connecticut other than administrative, and then start to send each region of the state to do it yourself. It's a new way of doing things, which creates a challenge out here, because you don't have big enough police departments to dedicate a training sergeant, training lieutenant, training officer for 6 months to run a class, administer it, do the paperwork, teach all the different subjects, do everything. So it's a big undertaking for out east. West, when you have a training division in a 300, 400 officer police department, you have 3 or 4 people that are just full-time training, a little bit easier, like the state police.
Well, Hartford PD has their own academy in Bridgeport, and they have it. The other issue that's occurring here is, by having a commuter class, it saves post-training, saves them money, because they don't have to have staff on 9 night. I would think that you're not gonna see another, in-house class, I doubt that.
Well, I recently talked to the person in charge of the classes, and they made it very clear that you might not see another overnight class again.
Yeah, because it saves them a lot of money. So maybe something in a regional, that we have to regionalize it in this area between departments, I don't know.
There's been talk of that, but again, it's very difficult. The biggest police department east of the Connecticut River, and this is Norwich. Norwich doesn't have a facility to do anything. The only thing we've talked about is potentially, I believe Chief Azzaro is from Groton, is the commanding colonel. He's the full bird colonel in the U.S. Army. He runs Camp Net, and that would be probably the most logical place to do that, because they have facilities there, training in areas and everything there.
Chief Stewart, is there some consideration being given to doing as much as could be done remotely? I imagine a lot of people here know 98% of my work for the last 18 months has been over Zoom or Teams or something. Obviously, there are certain things you can't do in that environment, but you can do an awful lot that way. And I wonder if that wouldn't be a better solution, especially for Eastern Connecticut, to really ask folks to think creatively about that.
They started to do that with some of the classes, and they are commonly referred to now as Zoom officers, because they've missed Zoom officers. So that's what they've done online. So certain classes they've been able to do that. But then again, you're missing that one-on-one with. We can get in the whole philosophy of police officer training, but having them ready to go, and when they come back to us, ready to take on field training and then go on their own, that oversight, the day-to-day seeing of a recruit and how they're doing the structure of an academy and the discipline that's associated with that, we're gonna have to see where this lands. I'm hearing it both ways. Some places are saying this is great, and other places have said this has turned into a complete nightmare with the product, because the result is, or the goal is to have a recruit come out as a high-functioning, ready-to-go, asset to the community, high-functioning police officer, and I think we're going to have to wait and see whether that's the end result or something that has to be looked at. Again, they have extended the academy because of a lot of this, so now we're probably pushing 28 weeks, not 26. So it's not getting any easier as far as that goes.
Send your report, Chief.
Continuing down, monthly report. You're going to see some things in there because we're dealing with August. 225 medical calls for the month, and that's pretty close to one of the highs, all-time highs that we've been dealing with. The other thing is I made 46 human services referrals that are actually /211, because when it goes to Deanna Rushlow, she's also pushing along the 211, so I'd be interested if you've seen any type of uptick in Stonington with the 211 type of stuff.
I'll bring that data back next
Yeah.
time, Chief. I apologize, it's been a busy time. I don't have it
I got
for
it.
today, but
Yeah.
next time I will bring the data.
I'm going to guess there's been a I wouldn't,
I think there has
I would-
been,
I
I
would
saw a
say-
heat map recently of their
Right.
information that looked very different to me than the last one I saw,
Good,
because I
yeah.
always look for
Right.
Stonington. Yeah, if there's time on, the next agenda, I'd be glad to discuss that and bring back what we have.
and also last night, one of the few victories that we were able to bring home across the finish line was $22,238 off the top of my head. 211/counseling, for the opera funds. So that was
Fantastic.
one of the few victories, last night that we were able to bring home at this point in time in the ballgame.
I think we need to, send something to the finance committee expressing the commission's support for those positions.
Because we went last night to
Right.
we had a long, did I say long meeting last night? Till,
It was way past my bedtime.
I know, Bob too was dozing off. I had to send him a couple texts to keep him lively.
Reminiscent from when I was on the board of finance.
I almost sent June a text, but I could see that her blood was already boiling and I wasn't gonna push the issue any further.
I was already texting.
But what this did in a variety of different ways with the monies that came along was push some things to the forefront of need, et cetera, on a variety of different levels. But if we were just focusing in on the police department itself, it pushed forward the microwave link and also dispatcher. And so that cat's out of the bag at this point. So we were pointed in a direction. So we're gonna go in that direction. So next month we'll be before the Board of Finance with both of them, and say, hey, we would like to add a dispatcher and the microwave link, and I don't know if I've fully explained it, is that the microwave link connects North Stonington Tower with the state to ours, so that when our fiber optic line goes down, which is done 6 times, that we have a clear connection with not only our 911, but our radio system. So we are continuing to work with the state. That is one of the tasks we also gave to Richard. Richard is back in the ballgame, and he is looking at those, and whether we can save any money or do something cheaper. So last night we had one of the few shovel-ready, if you want to call it, with a quote, ready-to-go projects for the town, but swing missed, and but we'll be back in a couple weeks to go back in the batter's box on that one.
But just to mirror your comments, I think it's important that we do go back, because both of those items are something that we feel very strongly about, and there's certainly some safety issues related to them.
Right.
So, even though we understood the kind of the position the Board of Finance was in and why they, well, at least understanding why they made the decision last night with the constraints that they were kind of faced with, that doesn't negate the importance of what these 2 issues are for us. So I think it behooves us to get to the plate again and take another swing.
Right, absolutely. So we'll be warming up. I was known in the day for hitting home runs, so I'll go back to the plate.
Hey, if I took no for an answer, I would be married at this point.
It was like 15 to 20 and
Well, it could have been the ripple too, but I don't know.
Ripple.
Well, I don't know, it goes back a ways.
Pagan thing?
So you were saying that the letter from the Board of Police Commissioners.
In support of, the microwave, both,
Okay, okay, that'd be great. I'll have Natalie draft something and maybe for tomorrow.
Do we need a motion on that? I'd make the motion to ask the chief or the captain to prepare a letter to the Board of Finance of demonstrating our support for you to revisit the issue with them, because I think it is important. We think it's important.
You have a second?
Second.
Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Awesome, thank you, appreciate that. Then I got 2 other things is, I didn't even know it, but Mike Gomes is our part-time janitor. Mike's been with us for about, I'd say about 10 years. He did 43 years at Electric Boat. His brother, Chris, is our full-time, so you got the Gomes brother. One works harder and one is better looking, but we won't get into that, and which one is which, because that's a constant argument. But unbeknownst to us, Mike was a member of the Wesley Fire Department for a lot of years, and he brought in a book the other day where he volunteered with Wesley Fire Department and went to the pile at 9/11 and helped out in the digging down there. So I just want to take a minute just to recognize Mike, thank him for his service at that time, and having to go down there and be right in the middle of that 20 years ago, and where we're at, and things like that. So we had a series of memorials and events that happened this past week, and Mystic Fire Department did a nice job with everything as they had for 20 years. And even the Pops concert, where I just listened to the booming voice of Mr. Bob Elmer and go up on stage for the chorus of Westlake, and just ring the bell in memory. So we certainly appreciate that. And then the other thing, and we've been working on it, and tomorrow, and appreciate the chair's participation. We have training at 11 tomorrow. I pulled together, and Lisa, I know you didn't make the last meeting, but I pulled together a little coalition of people in town. I saw a big uptick in homelessness and public intoxication that we have not seen in a long time. And why it happened, where it happened, what's going on with it. The shelter in Westerly is filled. Something happened in the world that we hadn't seen. So this has resulted in some tent cities, basically. I wouldn't say cities, but little, I guess, hamlets bouncing up, and a lot of medical calls, disturbances, almost daily visits to certain areas of the community to address a somewhat needy population. So I got the Human Services Department together with the shelter from New London, all the people from New London, Hospitality Center, Always Home, which is more a family, the Warm Shelter, Dr. Middleman from the Emergency Room Director at Yale New Haven, Westerly Police, New London Shelter, Human Services. I don't know, we had a party. And we brought everybody in and said, and the chaplains, so it's the other chaplains. So I gave the chaplains a charge, because they've always been looking what can we do. So I told them, hey, you preach on Sundays, 9 and 11 o'clock, but the people come to see you because they want to come see you and need to see you. These people, when I've gone down and spoke to them, the common theme here is lack of hope. They have no hope. When you have no hope, you don't really have a whole lot. So I can solve the issue very quickly on a temporary basis, but it doesn't solve the issue in any way, shape, or form.
So Teamster, I think what you're pointing to is not going to get better quickly, but for those of us who aren't affected by it, I don't know if the timing of all this is at the forefront of your mind, but the COVID pandemic enhanced unemployment ended in September, so that is having a powerful impact on a lot of people. The eviction moratorium is up, right? So people are going to start getting evicted in large numbers, and more so in Connecticut, because our housing market is stronger than it's been in a decade. So there are a lot of landlords who are not participating in the state-run rental assistance relief program because, frankly, they would rather be done with a tenant and be able to sell, right? So there's going to be probably a very big wave of evictions starting. I'd also flag the fact, and I think you all know this, but just to assemble the picture, the labor market is extraordinarily unstable right now. There's huge openings in some areas, but it's hard to get other jobs. It's a very strange labor market at the moment. So there's a lot going on, and mental health issues across America, are up by a factor of 300% compared to before the pandemic. So there's a lot of issues there.
Yeah.
The one thing, though, Chief Stewart, that I think is important to bear in mind, when you talk about response to homelessness, we're right on the border with Rhode Island, and that's important. Housing resources are state specific. If we send people for help to the warm shelter, then there are resources in Connecticut they're not going to be able to access. Mm-hmm. So I flag that. I don't know what the answer is to
Well,
that.
that's why we got them together, because that's what we didn't want to have happen. It's just like, it's not the same, so don't take it the same way. But drug dealers use the border as a way of bouncing back and forth because they can get away with whatever's going on. Right now, that particular population, not drug dealers, but they are bouncing back and forth because some of them want help, some of them don't want help, and if you don't want help, it's very easy to, I'm not gonna go over there because I have to face the music and talk to them, so I'll go over here, and they're playing the border back and forth. So what we did is we got the Connecticut people with the Rhode Island people.
That's great.
And say, come together and work together. And
I think the essential challenge, though, I would just put it a little differently. In the decade or so that I've been working in homelessness, I've never met anyone who didn't want help. I have met people who are so mentally ill that the decisions they're making are not rational or not what you would expect. They will actively resist help out of a state of paranoia, for example, right? Or psychosis or different things. So it's a little different. And I mentioned that just because often there is an image that there are people who want help and people who want to be homeless. And I've never, literally never, met someone who wanted to be homeless who wasn't so mentally ill that you couldn't trust what the decision making was. So I just flagged that, and those are some of the toughest cases because there's not always something we can do, and you cannot, in Connecticut at least, you cannot put them into a mental hospital against their will. So there are going to be some tough cases, and I mention all this because given that uptick in very serious mental health issues, given all of those economic factors, I think there's some challenging times ahead of us, and you're seeing it start.
Did I understand you correctly, excuse me, Commissioner, that if I use the worm shelter in Rhode Island, I'm ineligible to use the shelter in Connecticut?
No, you're not ineligible, but they can't help you at the worm shelter to access Connecticut resources.
I see.
They're in a separate state.
But we're trying to break down a little bit so that they are working.
They can refer people back and forth, it's just an additional step.
Right.
So,
And
and sometimes that happens, but it's often easier just if they start in Connecticut and go down the Connecticut pipeline, it makes it easier in the process to get them to housing, to get them to shelter bed, might just be faster.
Thank you. Our goal is to not have the police involved, that's what it is. We're saying, hey, we're getting involved on things. I can solve it pretty quick, but it's not solving it at all. It does nothing. It becomes a very simple, short-term solution to a much bigger and long-term problem. So even by arresting somebody down there for drinking in public, are they going to be able to pay the fine? No. What does it do? It gets an arrest warrant for them that now we have to hold on to that person, and if they haven't drug, alcohol, mental health issues, it's not a bonus for us. And then they go to court, and what happens in court? They're not going to do anything with it, so they're right back. So what does it accomplish? Nothing. And the accomplishment or the victory in any of this is if somebody really decides to say, I don't want to be on the street anymore. I want help. I want to go to a shelter. I want to have substance abuse counseling. I want to start to move ahead in life, and that's what our hope is. So I enlisted the chaplains and said, you have the toughest cases right now that you could ever see, but you also have to be ready because it's a different type of training you need to deal with the homelessness. I went down and talked to them just to get a handle on what's going on, and everybody had their tale and very sad stories that are there and everything that goes on. But I'm not in a position that if one of them came to me and says, I'm ready to do whatever, and it's not fair to them if they go, I'm ready, and I don't have, okay, this is what we're going to do. So that's what the training tomorrow is about, so that if somebody, because you're going to have I gave it to them pretty good, all of them, and said, I want action. We can sit around and talk all day long about what should, could be, whatever. I said, I want people down there, boots on the ground, to get down and start to make a difference. Start talking to people to see if somebody can get some help down there. But you have to all be on the same sheet of music. So if one of our chaplains gets down there and somebody says, yes, I want help, all right, I'm calling this person. I'm calling 211. I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and they know what the resources are available. Because you want to go, I'll get back to you, give me an hour. You leave and you come back and the person's not going to be there. So that's what we're trying to do, is to get for lack of a better term, a strike team to, that are all together. We can have a common message, I guess, to everybody, and hopefully start to make a difference. And they've identified a number of people, and I think one, as of today, asked for help, and they're working on that today. So we'll see where it goes on that. But, so we're trying to recognize the need, and we are not the solution to it. That's very clear. And that's what we try to say. Hey, we're part of helping with that, and we have an important role, but we are not going to solve that issue in the long run. We're not solving it.
And I have to give the chief a lot of credit. He facilitated the meeting, and everybody was here, and he did say, who's going down there today? Because we've all been part of meetings before where there's a lot of talk and action takes a long time, but he demanded, it's easy for him to send a police officer down there today, but like the chief said, it's not something for us to solve because people get concerned when we show up with a uniform. But he says, who's going down today? Because winter's coming very quickly, and they need help right now.
And they're intense.
Cars.
Right. So when I was down there,
Thank you for that.
three people, each had a very sad story of what was going on. And this was early on, so they were drinking. I could have arrested them. What's that going to do? And so Deanna came down and talked with each one of them individually. Got them at least lunch. So we were able to work that out. So they went for lunch instead of having a liquid lunch. They had some food in their stomachs and started the conversation. And it's not something that happens. It's not a flip of a switch. It's a process. And so we have the ball rolling. And just knock on wood that we can make a difference with some, because like I keep saying, winter is coming. And if there's nowhere to go, then we're having people sleeping in bushes right now.
Mr. Chairman, just a point I'd like to make. I want to invite the commissioners and anyone who's here in the room, and I'm working with Tricia Cunningham. We're having a benefit at Kentford Farm next Thursday at 5:30 for Almost Home. So if you're available and want to stop by, it starts at 5:30 and it's at Kentford Farm up on 184. So that's a good thing.
What day, Will?
The next Thursday, the 23rd.
What time?
5:30.
So I had to, for a long time, go to every fundraiser, for MASH, which is now Always Home, and the variety of different things. So it was ingrained in my brain. I think burned into my brain about the process with homelessness. I'm no expert by any stretch, but we were able to recognize that old-fashioned policing, if you want to call it that, does not solve this issue. Does not solve this issue.
No, I would like to thank you though for that effort, because you read a lot and you hear a lot about, and I think even at the Board of Finance meeting last night, they talked about marginalized people. And I think there's sincerity when people speak like that. But it seems like, somewhat to me, sometimes it's a toss-away term. There's a lot of discussion about it, but rarely do boots get on the ground. And what you were describing to me sounds like an effort that's meaningful to the extent that there's some productivity and result that people are in fact helped. Is it the charge of the police department to do that historically know, but I think that's a good, an outreach. And if that works for the town of Stonington, if this begins a solution to some of these issues, then go at it.
We're trying to get the officers, as best we can, up to speed on some of this as well, because we have, Joe Saunders with Mobile Outreach still going out every Tuesday to follow up on the mental health, issues that are in the community. And, sure enough, we're in a meeting with everybody together, and they had 2-at-1s going. So to Lisa's point about mental health, I used to say 10 ambulances, flashing light, one of them was a mental health issue. We're at 3 right now.
Yeah.
3 out of 10 ambulances, mental health issue going on. 48 in July, 46 last month at Deanna. There were 211/human services issues for her to look at. She's not getting involved in each one, but it was things that the police department touched that had that flavor, unfortunately.
But since, Chief, if I may, I just also want to say it's terrific that you're doing that, and it's also really important because you, often what I've seen our towns do, they see a problem and they say, we have to develop our own whole solution to this, and it's going to take money, and it's going to take all of these things, right? What you're talking about is a partial local solution, leveraging what's already out there. And all of our towns have to get better at doing that, right? You can't assume that there's nothing. You have to leverage everything there is, whatever the state's providing, whatever is regionally provided, and local resources, instead of starting from, a blank sheet of paper. So I'm just really glad to see that you're doing that, and it's important.
Both shelters, Rhode Island and Connecticut, say they have funding right now for housing. That if somebody says, yes, we can do this, and this, which is important, that's sort of what a little bit of the train's gonna be tomorrow, is letting people know what is out there and available, so you can tell somebody, this is what we're looking at, hopefully going to be able to do, this is how we get the process going. So we didn't need to go for any funding at this point in time, but, because it's already exists, right? It's already there.
I think the challenge though is just gonna be the housing market. It is very, very difficult to get someone housed right now at a rate that is sustainable for them, and this is a whole other issue that I think Stonington is trying to address. We need more affordable housing in Connecticut, and that problem is about to get a lot worse removed.
Right.
And then Lisa, just to kind of jump on your point there, especially from a real estate perspective, we have not only will the eviction rate climb, we also have so many landlords that have decided not to rent their places because of some of the stories that have happened to landlords in the past as far as not being paid or reimbursed. So they've pulled back and said, we're just going to time out. So it's further making the problem worse as far as people that need fair housing. Yeah.
Exactly right. And the only other thing I forgot to mention is the fact that the utility shut-off moratorium is also ended. So an additional problem that's about to spike is people getting their utilities cut off. And all these things are converging at this particular moment in time.
But I think what, from the police point of view or end of it, the chaplains, I think, are a perfect fit. And one of them right now is really picked up the ball with it, and it's Pastor Ray Jones, and he's been running with it and pushing. So, he actually went out with the Warm Shelter, I believe, the New London gentleman went along as well, and did meet and had nice conversations. And a lot of this is relationship building and trust. They need, the population needs to trust the people that are there, that they then can make decisions for their betterment down the road. So it's a process. It doesn't happen in a day. So we have the ball rolling. Let's see where it goes.
Tomorrow.
I think that's it. I always say that I feel like I'm missing something. I think we had one Narcan save. So our new officer, Anthony Brito, I may have mentioned it last month, but he did get a nice Narcan save. So.
Got a motion to accept the report of the chief.
So moved.
So
All in favor?
Aye.
Have a motion to accept the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Aye.
Aye.